Global Television Network.
The West African bloc ECOWAS suspends Mali over recent coup. French President Emmanuel Macron threatens to withdraw his country's troops from Mali if it heads towards radical Islamism. And in our new series starting today, we bring you stories behind kidnappings and banditry in Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria. Hello and welcome to Africa Live on CGTN with me, Beatrice Marshall, in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program. In business, cheap prices and high-end options make Chinese cell phone brands popular in DR Congo. And in sports, Senegal's Edouard Mendy makes history after the Champions League triumph with Chelsea. Let's begin the broadcast in Ghana, where leaders of the Economic Community of West African States, also known as ECOWAS, have met to discuss the political situation in Mali. ECOWAS leaders have suspended Mali from the regional bloc in response to the second takeover by the junta led by Colonel Assimi Goïta. The West African leaders have also demanded that a new civilian prime minister be picked immediately. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra.
The West African leaders arrived in Ghana's capital, Accra, on Sunday for the extraordinary summit to discuss the political crisis in Mali.
We must critically examine the dynamics of the current situation and make informed decisions. I'm thus using this opportunity to reiterate, on behalf of ECOWAS, our continued commitment to the peaceful transition in Mali with the basic goal of restoring democratic government and working for the stability of Mali and of our region.
This emergency summit became crucial after the military in Mali took over power for the second time within 9 months. The junta, headed by Colonel Assimi Goïta, who now holds himself as the transitional president of the West African country, led both coups. Leaders of the regional bloc say it is in breach of the transitional agreement process laid down last year after the first coup. The ECOWAS leaders were held up in the meeting for more than 4 hours. The discussions did not conclude on the immediate reimposition of economic sanctions against Mali. But the leaders have suspended Mali from the ECOWAS bloc and say they will continue to work with the country until it returns to democratic rule.
One of the decisions of the heads of state is that they should ensure that in the next few days, there is a civilian prime minister who will form a government, a transitional government, for the rest of the period. As you're aware, we have only about 8 months left.
There has not been any reaction to the decisions by ECOWAS from Mali's junta leader, Colonel Assimi Goïta, who also attended the summit. But he has pledged to ensure that elections are held in February next year to restore the country to democratic governance. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
Well, let's get more on this developing situation, and I'm joined by Fahiraman Rodriguez Kone, a senior researcher of the Sahel team at the Institute for Security Studies in Bamako. And CGTN's Kirum Chala is joining us from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. Fahiraman, let me start off with you because I want to get a glimpse of what the situation is on the ground and what has been the reaction to the ECOWAS suspension.
Well, the situation is still calm, and the decision has been released yesterday evening in the night, and there was not so much political reaction for the time being. But on my personal view, it will not create big contestation among the political class. The regional body was not in a strong position to take economic sanction, which could create strong reaction among the population. And the decision to suspend Mali to the regional institution is quite a symbolic one and will not have this reaction among the population. And also the regional body also reaffirms its support to accompany the transition process and also urge the international partner to do so. It means that they finally quite accept the current situation.
All right, Giron, let me hear from you at the African Union, though. What are you hearing from the African Union? Although ECOWAS has announced Mali's suspension from the regional body, no sanctions have been imposed. What are you hearing?
Beatrice, the African Union officials have told us that they support the decision made by ECOWAS, believing the fact that unconstitutional change of government is absolutely unacceptable in this continent. As you know, the African Union Charter on Democracy, Election and Governance seriously puts the situation as intolerable. The tolerance is not going to be there, and the African Union is also perhaps contemplating to take same measure of banning Mali from its membership. If you remember, in October last year, Mali's suspension because of same situation of coup d'etat has been lifted, and yet another day and another year we are in the same circle of situation. So the African Union is absolutely not happy with the situation in Mali, but it wants to work with the country, as ECOWAS nations have said, to resolve this situation.
Fahiraman, so what happens next now? What's your take on Mali's political future?
To my point of view, the junta is known, I can say, is in a quite good position, and still now they're trying to reorganize the governance structure by attending a civilian prime minister. But the next situation will quietly depend on the internal political process and also the reaction of other international partners such as France and the UN. The president, French president, yesterday in an interview just said that they could remove the forces on the ground, which is a big security challenge for Mali. So there are security challenges, but also political challenges to go with this transition to election, but things should be prioritized by focusing on a specific election like a presidential or legislative election. And now there are big concerns, but all will depend, as I've said, from the internal political process and also the partner not to get back to turn back to the current junta.
All right, and Girum, give us a sense of just how worried and concerned the African Union is over the present crisis in Mali. Well, Girum Chala there, thank you for that update. We seem to have a technical hitch with Addis Ababa. Girum Chala joining us from Addis Ababa, and Fahiraman Rodriguez Kone joining us there from Bamako. To you both, thank you. Now, President Emmanuel Macron has warned France could pull its troops out of the country. On Sunday, Macron said this will happen if West African country heads towards what he called radical Islamism. France is a key supporter of Mali's fight against terrorism. The former colonial power has around 5,100 troops stationed in the Sahel. This comes after the country has dealt with a second coup in 9 months. ECOWAS held talks with President Colonel Assimi Goïta in Ghana. Goïta consulted with the body before it held its extraordinary summit on Mali. The West African regional body has already suspended Mali's membership. Well, CGTN's Lucy Howe is joining us now with more from Paris. Lucy, what more can you tell us about President Macron's threat?
Well, it's a pretty strongly worded threat issued yesterday with the JDD newspaper following a two-day visit by Macron to South Africa and Rwanda, really saying that he was prepared to withdraw the 5,100 troops that have been stationed in West Africa in the region since 2014, assisting forces there with the fight against jihadist groups, and that if it was clear that there was a serious threat from radical Islam, if indeed the country continue to move towards radical Islam being dominant in the country, then Macron would be prepared to withdraw his troops completely, saying that he would not be prepared to have his soldiers in a place with radical Islam. Some here in the French media saying that Macron wanted to withdraw troops anyway, that he didn't want to have troops stationed there indefinitely, that there had already been a fairly substantial mission since 2014, but that the country was continuing to be destabilized. There's also been the threat of sanctions alongside the United States and other West African nations, but there are fears both amongst France and the US that that could potentially further destabilize the region. So a pretty serious threat there, but one that indicates that Macron is concerned about the continued threat of radical Islam in Mali.
Well, Lucy, President Macron is concerned, but what does he want to see happening in Mali for the withdrawal of troops not to take effect?
He wants to see the situation stabilise, the return to civilian rule, and for free and fair elections to take place next year. That key date of February 2022, when there are due to be elections in the country, of course, and there were hopes, despite the fact that we had a coup in August 2020, that the two individuals tasked with leading the transition government were going to continue in those efforts to bring the country towards civilian rule, and certainly those are efforts that are being monitored closely in France, but also in the wider European Union. If indeed the situation continues and it is clear that those elections are under threat, then we could indeed see the withdrawal of troops over the course of the next 12 months, and for the potential of those sanctions to be imposed. But certainly French President Emmanuel Macron saying he does not want to see his soldiers put in a country where there is a threat from radical Islam and from which there is no democratic, where those elections may not be able to take place freely and fairly.
Lucy Howe joining us there from Paris. Thank you. Well, CGTN's Daniel Arap-Moy reports on France's continued involvement in international security operations in Mali.
The Mali political crisis was triggered by an armed Tuareg rebellion in January 2012. France quickly launched an operation codenamed Serval in 2013. It was in response to gains made by the insurgent groups north of the capital Bamako. Operation Serval sought to host Islamic militant groups out of the country. In 2014, another French-led operation called Barakni replaced Serval in the name of Collective Security of the Sahel. But despite efforts by France, instability has spread due to attacks by a range of groups, some linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. The security situation has since worsened, with French President Emmanuel Macron now threatening to withdraw troops from Mali.
Nous avons condamné avec la plus grande fermeté.
What the rebel military officers have done again is unacceptable. Coup within a coup. That calls for our immediate condemnation, and also the fact that we are ready, within the next few hours, if the situation was not clarified, to declare targeted sanctions against the protagonists.
Insecurity across West Africa and the Sahel has expanded into areas previously considered safe. Militants have continued to stage deadly attacks, leaving hundreds of civilians dead. France, with a strong force of 5,100 troops in the Sahel region, has been battling several Islamic militant groups. The troops have been supporting government forces in Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Chad since 2013. It's feared that any withdrawal of the French troops could lead to militants linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State strengthening their foothold across the region. Daniel Arap-Moy, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
Somalia will head to indirect elections in 60 days. This follows a new deal signed by the country's leadership. The deal has ended months of negotiations between the federal government and sections of the federal member states. Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble said he was committed to free and fair polls after signing the agreement. Roble and leaders of 5 other regional states will select members of the election committee.
It is an honor for me to attend this closing ceremony of the general consultation that we have reached in the election political agreement that ended in victory. Congratulations, first of all, to the Prime Minister and the presidents of the federal government and the Banadir region.
The United Nations and Somalia's international partners present today welcome the successful conclusion of this summit between the federal government of Somalia and federal member states. We pay tribute to the Somali-led and Somali-owned process that produced this consensus. We commend the Prime Minister for his leadership of the summit and the presidents of the federal member states and all other influential leaders involved in the talks for their constructive approach to reach compromise. We thank President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed Farmajo for his appeal on May 1 to revert to the 17 September electoral model, enabling a return to dialogue.
Let's now turn to the DRC. Around 400,000 residents have fled the city of Goma. This comes after authorities warned of further volcanic eruptions. The UN Stabilization Mission started monitoring Mount Nyiragongo for signs of eruptions. But as CGTN's Ashtatal explains, those fleeing still face many other challenges.
Hundreds of thousands fled Goma after Congolese officials warned of more volcanic eruptions.
We came by foot. We rushed with our children on the night of the eruption until we got here on Sunday morning. We've been here ever since.
But they're now facing another challenge. So far, a quarter of those who have fled have sought refuge in the town of Sake. Sake has been battling a cholera endemic, and experts worry a lack of access to water could exacerbate the problem.
These are the calls we made immediately. We have a problem with water. We also need other partners who can help us with the water supply to try to reach the whole population. We are going to get 180,000 meter cube water supply capacity, but the estimated population is greater than that.
In addition to access to clean water, Doctors Without Borders says food and shelter are among the other most urgent needs. The UN estimates over 4,500 homes were destroyed by lava. In addition to the estimated 20,000 affected by this, aid agencies are trying to reunite parents with their children who are separated in the exodus. Astatal, CGTN.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced that he will reimpose stricter measures against COVID-19 as the whole country could soon face a third wave of the pandemic. From Monday, the night curfew will start an hour earlier from 11 p.m., while non-essential shops, bars, restaurants and gyms will have to shut at 10 p.m. Gatherings, including political and faith events, will be limited to 250 people outdoors and 100 indoors. According to the president, 4 of the nation's 9 provinces are already battling a third wave of infections. South Africa is the worst hit country in Africa, with more than 1.65 million cases. Only a little more than 1% of the population has been vaccinated so far.
Further restrictions are necessary to ensure that health facilities are not overwhelmed and that lives that could be saved are not lost. Delaying the spread of the virus is especially important now to allow as many people as possible to be vaccinated before the third wave reaches its peak. While the country is headed towards a third wave of infections, we do not yet know how severe this wave will be or for how long it will last. According to the scientists that advise government, the severity of this third wave will largely be determined by the amount of contact each of us has with other people.
You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead on the program, we'll be bringing you our new series starting today. We bring you stories behind kidnappings and banditry in Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent. to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Well, the global demand for water has increased over the years, with a growing population and climatic changes playing a part in that. The United Nations reports that countries in North and Eastern Africa face serious water shortages. CGTN's Wanja Mungai reports on how some communities in Kenya are trying to cope with these challenges.
15-year-old Sarah Nasimoi is a classics pupil. She goes to Nasaru Primary School in Kenya's Kajiado County. She is determined to study hard and become a pilot one day. However, every day she and other pupils have to make a trip to search for water before and after school.
We have to travel very far, like 15 kilometers, to fetch water for drinking, cooking and cleaning. We have a big problem.
Nasaru village is located in Kenya's Rift Valley, a semi-arid area whose harsh climate has been worsened by climate change.
We purely rely on the rainwater. When you look at our tanks here, we only rely on the rainwater. When there is no rain, it means we have got no water. There is no access to any water apart from the community dam, which is around 15 kilometers away from the school. It is the kids which ferry the water from the community dam to the school for washing, for cleaning, for drinking, all of that. It is the kids which bring the water to the school.
The United Nations says climate change is the biggest threat that many people around the world currently face. The pastoralist community here faces many challenges. Unpredictable rainfall and long drought seasons lead to difficult times for the locals. They are at times forced to travel long distances to seek pasture for their livestock.
Due to the reduction in precipitation, the ground is not able to absorb sufficient water, either because of water flowing too fast above the ground, or the seasons not having sufficient water supply in the form of rainfall.
To cope with the challenge, the people have had to improvise. The residents of Nasaru village have been forced to explore different water harvesting techniques to deal with the water challenges. This one here is Olemosatet Dam. It feeds about 1,000 goats and 1,000 cows.
When water levels drop very much, we are normally forced to go elsewhere to feed our cattle, where we have to pay for water.
Countries around the globe are set to celebrate the World Environment Day on June 5th, when the United Nations will be urging people worldwide to join efforts to restore destroyed ecosystems. In the meantime, people of Nasaru will be hoping to survive the difficulties they currently face, and Sarah will be working hard to realize her dreams amid the challenges. Wanja Mungai, CGTN, Kajiado County, Kenya.
Gunmen have kidnapped a number of students from the town of Tegina. The town is located in Niger State. According to reports, the gunmen stormed the town, opening fire. They then went to the Islamic school where both boys and girls were in attendance. It remains unknown how many people have been abducted. Kidnappings for ransom have been on the rise in Nigeria since December. The country has recorded at least 6 abductions. Well, let's cross over to CGTN's Deji Badmus. He's joining us for the latest on this developing story. Deji, what is the latest on the situation?
Well, Beatrice, nothing is as clear yet. In terms of the number, no one, the authorities have not been able to give a categorical number of students now who were abducted from that Islamic school. And the kidnappers have not made any contact at all with the parents of the children. The authorities are simply saying they're on top of the situation. The government of Niger State says it's on top of the situation and that it will ensure that these children, so to speak, are released unharmed, and that sooner than later they'll get them out. But it's quite instructive to note that this attack happened in a town that is just 11 kilometers away from another town where about 27 students were abducted sometime in February, and that's Kagara town. So people are surprised that this would happen, but what we're gathering is that the number, of course, it's huge. The number of students who were pupils now of that Islamic school who were kidnapped is huge, but at the moment, no categorical number from the officials. Beatrice?
Deji, this is the 6th abduction since December of 2020. Do we know who is responsible for this latest attack?
Well, obviously, the suspicion falls on bandits. And let me say this. Look, bandits have been operating almost at random in Niger State. Niger State is now one of the hotbeds of banditry in the country. It used to be Zamfara State in the northwest, but now they have moved to the north central of the country, Niger State. And by the way, Niger State is not far away from Abuja. As a matter of fact, it's just less than 2 hours from Abuja, the nation's capital. And that's the reason why a lot of people have expressed concern that the government has to step up security measures in that area to root these bandits out of the area. That if something is not done, then they might, before you know it, they would be in the federal capital. So obviously from their mode of operation and the way they've been operating in that area, there's no question that these are bandits. No group now has claimed their responsibility for this, but we know that bandits operate in that area. Just the whole of Niger State, as a matter of fact. And we've seen several kidnappings like this in that state. So no doubt that bandits would be responsible for this, and that they would have done this, of course, to demand ransom payment. I believe in the next few days, they will make contacts, and of course, people will know what their demands are, and then negotiation will begin. But it's a very worrying situation that Niger State in the north central of the country is now a hotbed for banditry, and the authorities are currently struggling to deal with it. And let me just say this, Niger State is quite huge. We're talking about a state that is about 76,000 square kilometers in size. I mean, it has a lot of forests, a lot of ungoverned spaces. So it's actually a challenge for the security agencies to actually police and provide security now for the entire state, because that state, it's about the largest in the country. Beatrice?
All right, Deji Badmus joining us there from Lagos. And we're staying with this story for the moment and expanding on it now. I'm joined by Ndu Nwokolo. He's a partner and chief executive of Next Year Security, Peace and Development, and he's based in Nigeria. Joining me from there. Thank you for joining us on Africa Live. Now, we've just heard news of another kidnapping in Nigeria. Why are kidnappings now rampant in Nigeria? We've just been told this is the 6th since December of 2020.
Yeah, I think there are mosaic of factors why kidnapping is increasing in Nigeria. First, we have a failing security architecture which is unable to provide the kind of security that is desirable for every Nigerian. We have our army fighting in almost 34 out of our 36 states. We have a policing system that is not working. So with the vast nature of Nigerian landmass, our ungoverned space is large and increasing by the day because the state presence we are losing state presence. So you find out that places where local communities, rural areas where there are absence of state presence in terms of policing and all that, the Nigerian police service, or Nigerian police force, you find out that kidnappers are having field day. That is just one. Then secondly, we have a deteriorating economic situation. Of course, everybody knows Nigeria mainstay is petroleum, which isn't doing well in the international market. So the last report from our Nigerian Bureau of Statistics shows that unemployment is increasing. Now, if you go to places like the northern part of the region, where agriculture should be doing well, insecurity has driven a lot of young people out of their local communities, and they've taken to life of criminality, or such as banditry and terrorism.
Right.
And terrorism and banditry in Nigeria are mainly the operations are mainly funded by proceeds from kidnapping. So you could see what is happening. So kidnapping is increasing because of a lot of issues. Now, again, we have a situation where there's lack of elite consensus in the country. So 2023 is coming. So people are looking for ways of building watches, of which part of hypotheses and our findings show that some of these proceeds are not far away from political conspiracies of people trying to build watches for 2023.
Right.
So there are many factors, many factors that are leading to this increase in kidnapping in Nigeria.
Very many factors indeed. Ndu Nuokolo, do stay with us. We will continue with that discussion in a moment as we now look at the issues deeper of the kidnappings and banditry in Nigeria. Take a look.
The trend of kidnappings in Nigeria began in 2006 in the oil-rich Niger Delta region. Militants fighting to attract global attention to the plight of the people of the region abducted expatriate oil workers. But the modus operandi would later change. The militants began kidnapping for ransom, and before long, even Nigerians became targets. 15 years later, kidnap for ransom has become a booming industry. The once peaceful north is now the epicenter of banditry and abductions.
It's a very lucrative industry. You go in, you make money, you come out, and other people who also see you, they get involved. See, people now own kidnap groups, and they resource them. The kidnap is done, money is collected, is brought back for the Oga, who ensure that everybody that is in the ring gets paid, and everybody smiles to the bank.
Nigeria's leading intelligence consultancy, SBM Intelligence, estimates that between June 2011 and March 2020, at least $18.34 million has been paid to kidnappers as ransom.
Right now, a lot of people are in it, and then of course, the sponsors are becoming many. So it is something to be worried about as a parallel economy in Nigeria.
It was not an easy thing at
Victims of kidnapping can take a long time to recover from their experience. In November last year, Morgan, who did not want his face shown, spent weeks negotiating the release of two of his relatives who were kidnapped while traveling in the northwestern Kaduna state. They regained their freedom only after a ransom was paid. The kidnappers held them hostage for close to a month.
It's more than emotional torture. All we could do then was to pray that nothing happened to them, because we've heard of instances where they will kidnap people, you will pay ransom, and they will still kill the people in their custody. So we were scared. Presently now, it is difficult for me to travel from one state to the other. Presently now, I can't even try it, if not by flight, if not by air. I can't travel from one state to the other. But if I have to, at least there should be some amount of police protection or army or escorts generally.
Despite several military bombardments of their hideouts and forests around the north of the country, the bandits are not relenting. They're still kidnapping people. This controversial Islamic cleric has been leading a self-sponsored mediation effort to get the bandits to lay down their arms and give up their criminal enterprise. He's also been involved in several successful negotiations to free students in recent kidnapping incidents. He says negotiation rather than military operation is key to ending the menace. Islamic cleric has also made it clear he is not opposed to the payment of ransom, saying saving lives is more important.
So I think this argument that when you give them money, they will buy weapons. No, let the government stand up and work. Give them the money, then you know where you can catch them. This money they're asking is big money. You can put chips on it, you can track where money is, you can follow them and catch your money. But I don't want a situation whereby The choice is between lives and bandits over money and bandits.
The government has ruled out any form of negotiation or ransom payment to the bandits, and the position of the Islamic cleric has divided opinions in the country.
It is the ransom, the payment of ransom, that is making this business to boom. The citizens have to understand that yes, government will not pay ransom, and we are not going to pay either. When somebody is kidnapped, we don't allow the person to stay with the kidnappers for too long. We will make sure that from the very first phone call, government agencies, special forces that are trained to deal with this should be out there looking for them. Because it has festered all over the place because nobody is looking for them, nobody is putting them on comfortably. We are paying ransom and they are just enjoying the money. So it is business as usual, and it's a booming business.
There are no easy answers to the banditry and kidnapping crisis in Nigeria. The country's military is stretched to the limit, taking on bandits in the northwest, separatist militants in the southeast, and Boko Haram in the northeast. But whatever it takes, the citizens of this country say they just want peace. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Well, Ndu Nwokolo is still with us, expanding on this situation in Nigeria. So give us a brief understanding of why the abductions are carried out for ransom and they are becoming increasingly common in the northern states.
Why insurrection and insurgency are being witnessed in every part of Nigeria, that of the northern part of Nigeria is mainly banditry and terrorism. Now, in the last 4 months, there's a research the NSASP did where we're able to show the linkage between the banditry in the northwest part of Nigeria and the terrorism in the northeastern part of Nigeria. What has happened is that with the Nigerian state being able to dislodge ISWAP and Boko Haram a bit, to the extent that they stopped collecting taxes in those areas up to the part of Lake Chad Basin. What they've done is that they've linked up with bandits in the northern west part of Nigeria who are now doing this massive kidnapping of adopting school children, and some of those proceeds are what ISWAP or Boko Haram, depending on which of them is helping these bandits, are using in their operation. Now, another reason why you could see that the northern part of Nigeria is witnessing this amount of kidnapping is because of the geographical nature of the northern region. It has, large landmass, which is not densely populated as what you have in the south. It means that you could have a community where you can find only 4 or 5 houses in a very big community. So it means that this region is almost porous, and with the ungoverned nature which we've been experiencing, it becomes very easy for these bandits to keep operating and keep kidnapping.
All right.
So I think that is the major thing what we are experiencing in the northern part of the country.
Ndu Nwokolo joining us there from Nigeria. Thank you very much for that discussion. You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead on the program. Cheap prices and high-end options make Chinese cell phone brands popular in the DR Congo. And Zimbabwe suspends grain imports over projected local bumper harvest.
This has taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Over the last 14 hours of rain.
Transsion, Tecno and Infinix may not be global household names, but in Africa, they are leaders in the smartphone market. That's according to a recent study by global research firm International Data Corporation. Cheap prices and high-end options have made them particularly popular in the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo, as Chris Ochamringa tells us.
A typical shop window display in Kinshasa. Phone dealers here sell a wide range of Chinese smartphones to the city's 12 million residents. Many of these Chinese brands have become household names.
Right now, phone brands like Tecno are selling more than other brands in Kinshasa, especially their Spark series. The reason they sell so fast is because they have long-lasting batteries and good cameras. You know, we Congolese love good quality products.
According to global research firm International Data Corporation, Chinese phones like Tecno, Infinix and Itel have become the top-selling smartphones in Africa. Chinese brands accounted for 18% of the total shipments to the continent last year, compared to 15% by South Korean competitor Samsung.
One of the advantages of Tecno phones is its long battery life. They are really good. Some, like the Spark series, can go for days without blacking out. Secondly, it has a great camera. I usually take very nice photos with my phone.
Chinese phone brands have become very popular in the DRC because they are cheaper than other global brands and have features similar to those found in high-end phones. A mid-range Chinese phone goes for about $100, a fraction of the costs of even a used iPhone, which can cost $500. It's a huge difference for a country where the majority of citizens live on less than $2 a day.
La Chine est extrêmement avancée sur le plan technologique.
China is very advanced in technology. Some of its popular brands like Huawei are competing with the best smartphones in the world. Chinese manufacturers realized that they had to make good phones that are affordable to ordinary people in order to capture the wide market in Africa.
Au niveau des aspects technologiques, comme j'ai dit au départ,
not only are the phones sold in Africa, but important raw materials are mined here as well, like cobalt, a key component in rechargeable batteries. The DRC is home to more than half of the world's cobalt, much of it sourced from the Katanga region in the south. But the country doesn't have any phone manufacturing companies due to decades of political instability and conflict. And so Congolese citizens have to rely on industrialized countries like China to produce its smartphones and other electronic devices. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
A projected bumper harvest has seen Zimbabwe suspend grain imports to preserve a scarce foreign currency and stabilize local food prices. As Farai Mwakutuya tells us, Zimbabwe's maize harvest will be nearly 200% higher than last year and 130% above average.
Successive droughts saw Zimbabwe rely on maize imports to supplement low harvests and feed millions of citizens at risk of starvation. However, one of the best rainy seasons recorded in 2 decades promises to deliver about 2.7 million tons of grain, more than enough for domestic consumption, which has prompted the ban on imports.
In the past 18 months, we imported close to 1 million tons. And 1 million tons at the current import parity price, that's slightly above $300 million. So we're going to save $300 million. But more importantly, we have created jobs. We have re-energized the main industry, the primary industry, which is, of course, farming, the jobs there, and other supporting industries. Those are into farm machinery, fertilizers, inputs. So we have internalized that 300 million.
While there's a maize surplus, aid agencies such as the World Food Programme warn that some urban dwellers, particularly those who've been adversely affected by the COVID-19 restrictions, may still require aid because the cost of some basic foodstuffs remains out of their reach.
There's unlikely to be an immediate drop in the price of the staple maize meal because GMO imports were cheaper than the locally grown organic maize.
yes, our local maize might be cheaper than, might be perhaps slightly more than what we've been importing, because what we're importing at that critical time is lower quality maize. However, we anticipate that price will initially stabilize and then start to deflate and come down, because supply is up. There's so much maize meal in many households, so demand for commercial maize meal in the first half from now or in the next 6 months is going to be very low. And when demand is low, supply is high, natural price will come down.
Millers plan to offset the subdued human requirements through stock feed production, where they project a surge in demand that signals increased production across all major livestock categories, an additional boon for the rebounding agriculture sector. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
The Chinese Communist Party has made remarkable progress in uplifting China's economy and people out of poverty and stands as a practical example for African nations. This is according to Zimbabwe's former ambassador to China, Christopher Mutsvangwa. CGTN's Farai Mwakutuya spoke to him about the Chinese Communist Party's 100th anniversary and the leadership of President Xi Jinping.
President Xi came to Harare en route to the FOCAC summit in 2015. How significant was that? What were your impressions of him from that?
When he was going to attend the China-Africa summit in Johannesburg, I think it was in 2015, he made it a point of making Zimbabwe stop over. You know, it means he cherishes the bilateral relationships which were started by Chairman Mao and Chu Enlai in the 1960s, and our Chairman Herbert Chitepo, and the likes of our General Tongogara, and of course our present President Emerson E. D. Mnangagwa, who was trained as a young man of a fledgling nationalist army, nationalist guerrilla army in Nanjing in the 1960s. So he puts a premium on the relationships between Zimbabwe and China, and that trip, that stopover for a few hours, was a remarkable show of a gesture of solidarity with Zimbabwe. He's a modest man who is passionate about the role of China, but who is also very, very internationalistic in his outlook, as has been espoused in his Belt and Road Initiative. This is a good leader who we all would be happy to be associated with.
Been your impressions of President Xi Jinping's leadership over the past years?
President Xi has been very good at digging into the history of China from the experience of the previous leaders of the Chinese Communist Party in the last 100 years, but more so since the triumph of the revolution. And he has taken the best aspects of his mentors, the Communist part of China, the various from Chairman Mao, Deng Xiaoping, and the other modern leaders. He has gleaned from them and built a corpus of knowledge which has made him make China scale the challenge of modernization. Now China is focusing on the key technologies of the future so that the economy of China can deliver more, not only to the Chinese people, but to the world. His Belt and Road initiative on how we should integrate and share the development of experience, the development experience of the whole world in a global village is a remarkable philosophy of how humanity should approach the shared challenges of how we can integrate and increase prosperity, shared prosperity by humanity.
Let's now take a look at your sports, and we begin with basketball, where the African League has been received as a game changer on the continent. Enthusiasts are hailing the competition as a route for talented African players to make it to the lucrative NBA. Here are some of the thoughts on the competition from Kigali.
You can see already the level of competition here. I remember earlier in the year, we had a Tunisian national team come and play here, and they were unplayable. But you can see now, in this league, teams are really competing. This will only improve the level of basketball in the continent, from Southern Africa all the way to the north, and this is the objective.
Yes, it's been very exciting. I think it's a really huge thing that, you know, Africa has its own league now, close to the NBA, similar to the NBA, at least with a vision. Watching the games has been, you know, it's been a phenomenal experience. The competition, the excitement, it's been very thrilling to see, at least.
I'm very, very proud. It means a lot to me. I can't describe it. I'm very proud of it. I'm a basketball fan, and I used to play basketball. My favorite team is Patriots. This competition is very important to us. The fact that we are actually hosting a game that is coming in